Hey everybody, this is Dan Thomson from the Songwriters Cafe, and I'm joined today by Amy Savin. How are you, Amy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Excellent. And you are from Canada.
Safe, very broad answer. I am from the north.
The North. And what part of Canada do you hail from?
Let's just say Toronto.
Okay.
I
So,
mean, like I was born there. Now I'm living in Farmsville in Morriston.
right, right. And for anyone who's listening right now, and most of our listeners are from the US, there might be some from Canada, and if they are, they can let me know. That would be cool. You are from basically west of Toronto.
That's great. That's a good way of saying that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the interview. I know you're coming off of a trip, and you're probably bound for another trip shortly. But before we get going on those, why don't you just tell me who you are and like who is Amy Savin?
Who is Amy Savin? I've been playing for a long time. I was born and raised on the piano. It's my mother tongue. And I started writing my own music fairly soon after that, maybe 7, 8 years old. And when I was 18, picked up guitar as well. And I just love music. And I love classical, believe it or not. I played all the Beethoven and Mozart and Chopin and all of those things. I'm
Oh
trying to
wow.
to relearn that.
Well, that's awesome. So was this formal training? Was it school? Was it at home?
Yeah, Canadians will know the Royal Conservatory of Music,
Okay. Yeah.
RCM. I currently teach that as well sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Um, but the Americans won't know that. But basically, that's our grading system for piano in Canada, right?
Okay.
Um,
And
and I'm
that's separate from school then. That's just
Yeah,
yeah.
you can take it all the way up to, I think I went up to grade 10. I think you could take it to grade 11. And then if you finish all of your piano and if you take all of your theory exams, you can actually use it as a university credit.
Oh wow. Okay.
So,
Excellent.
didn't go that route though.
Now, you've been very busy and
hmm
you just came from somewhere. Where were you? It was a tour, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did a tour in Europe and we went to 3 different countries, Germany, Switzerland, and Austria.
Okay.
I think we played in 10 cities and 12 shows, if I got my math right.
Wow.
So we were really busy. I'd never done a full tour before. Back home, we do, you know, several concerts throughout a month, but you never do 12 back to back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and how did that all come about? Was it, a contact there? Was it through um, anyone you're working with?
I had a friend that came to visit from Germany, and he'd always been saying, Amy, why don't you do a show out? Like, we'd love to have you come and do a show out where we live. And I was like, well, his name is Timo. It's like, Timo, it's kind of hard to fly like 7, 8, how long is it? 8-hour flight and spend $2,000 and for a show. I was like, if we set up a tour, maybe. And so that was kind of in passing, and then like a year later, we were both kind of serious about it, and I was like, let's just try it. Let's just see if we can do it. So I started to book shows 8 months or so before we left, and word just spread that we were coming to town, and um, for some reason, like media was catching on, and I honestly thought they thought Amy Grant was coming to town because we had full packed venues of people, and we were in the newspaper like 4 or 5 times. Like they thought we were pretty cool, and I was just like, it
Wow.
was so simple. I mean, the whole thing was a God thing. Like God
Hmm.
just totally blessed us. But
Awesome. Now, you went over there as a band. Do you have a full band normally, or was this put together for a tour?
yeah, so normally I play with either. Well, I do like 3 different sets, whether it's myself or with just my guitar player Jake, or with the whole band. And there's about five guys, and they've been featured in some videos and stuff like that. But what we did was we used 2 of our band members here, and then we used 2 German guitar players, Timo and his friend Carl. And Timo actually works at a music store, so he had all this equipment for us to use, and we didn't have to bring anything. All we brought was merch, and we sold out of that, so we didn't have to.
That's great. So you didn't even bring your own guitar, or
They had no clue we were coming into town, at least, like customs and that. We didn't need to, I mean, we didn't have to hide anything, but they didn't ask us questions, right? Like, we're just.
Yeah, yeah, because you were just going as people with luggage on a tour, on a trip, right?
So.
Wow, that's great. Now, was this, we can go into it a bit, but you are with a label now, correct?
Yeah, I'm with an independent label, Mission House.
Okay.
And their approach is kind of working side by side the artist, not necessarily for the artist. So if I wanted to do a tour, let's say in the U.S., I can ask them for some context. I do my own work still.
Okay.
But they help in terms of spreading word, giving me connections and radio promotion, that kind of thing, which was good for where I'm at. Like still starting off and providing the next step I need, especially to go into the U.S. where I'll be moving. Have a little bit of my feet wet there, and them being able to do that for me. So,
how did that all come about? Was it they found you on YouTube? Was it a contacts thing? How did you end up connecting with them?
With these guys, it was funny. Jim, he's one of the guys that I'm working with. He was just sitting at an airport, and he was going on pure volume, and I don't even go on pure volume. I think I have like one listener on there and like a few tracks. Like I didn't even realize my account still existed. And anyways, he said, Amy, we just came across your song Hide Me, and we can't stop listening to it, and we want to use it in the US for radio play. And I thought he was joking, like one of those people that sends out 3,000 emails to all those contacts, like I would, because you get those all the time. But so yeah, I did my research on them, and I forwarded their stuff to Peter, and we just prayed about it. We're like, this seems good, and it wasn't anything complicated. But I think beyond that, and also before that, like you just kind of have to do what you're already doing, right? Because people are interested in artists that are moving and are always up on their next project, not someone that's like looking around, waiting around, pick me.
Yeah. I guess it's hard for labels like that to go behind somebody if they're not willing to get in the vehicle or on the plane and go, right?
Yeah.
And you have an album called Skylines, which was released in 2011, right?
Yeah.
In May 2011. And now you did a full album as opposed to an EP. I know you did some music before, but this is the full album released this time. Why did you decide to do a full album?
Because I had done like an EP before, and it was really low budget, just trying to, get music out there. And I had so many songs. I mean, I'm 26 years old. There's a lot of life to be lived, between then and now. And I just wanted to go for it. I mean, I was so discouraged because the first time I started the project, the songs were falling apart, and the people that I'm working with just weren't on task, and it was so hard. And I honestly was going to quit, and I was just cut another album with just like 2 or 3 songs, if you can call that an album. Then I found John Nathaniel from Montreal, Quebec on MySpace, believe it or not, when MySpace was fun and cool. I loved his string arrangements, and I did a track with him, fell in love with his style, and I prayed to God for the finances, and we pulled it off. I mean, I did a couple songs with other producers as well on the album, but
yeah, you had some involvement from Ed Cash at some point, right?
Yeah.
But most of it was done in Montreal, like the recording itself.
Montreal, Quebec. Can you believe it? 100% Canadian made, this album.
That's great. Now, did you have to get any government funding, or did you just do it, from friends and family and support?
All of the above.
Oh, okay.
I just grabbed wherever I could.
Cool. Well, I mean, there are ways to network as a Christian in Canada. Sure. There is the Gospel Music Association, which I'm aware of, and that's in a sense how I kind of found out who you were. But also we kind of crossed paths with radio contests for our songs for airplay. How has that played out with your album? Getting radio airplay, has it been consistent? Was that a new thing for you to try in Canada, or did the Canadian radio stations embrace it?
It's funny because when I first came with my EP, I guess the songs weren't up to par, right? They're looking for radio quality songs, and so I got a lot of rejection, and I guess I'm one of those people, like, if you knock me down, I'm going to try and stand back up again. And I was like, okay, you didn't like that one? Fine. Now let me send you another one.
Well, I guess there is a formula in radio, right?
Yeah.
And we've all learned that if we're artists, less than 4 minutes, you got to hit the chorus in the first 45 seconds and so on. I didn't catch that from your album. Like your album, the songs were full songs. Some of them were orchestrations. There was some big sound. Definitely not the cookie cutter style.
Yeah, which is funny because a lot of my music kind of pushes the limits when it comes to radio play. But I honestly don't know why this album received so much love from the Canadian radio stations. Maybe because I hounded them. One of my singles, Bigger Houses, was doing really well for a long time, and it just kind of came out of the blue, like I would see on the charts, But yeah, I don't know what the trick is.
But I guess it was really good timing for you being able to get a full album out, because if you want to get on the road, it's kind of hard to do a show or a performance if you only have 4 or 5 songs.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Now you've explained to me a bit, but maybe you can explain it now. Your process for your show, because you said it's not just a showy concert. What does a typical Amy Savin show consist of? Right.
It's just me telling stories of where I've been and what I've done, and then interjecting songs in between. And I always like to test up the audience within the first 5 minutes, see where they're at and whether they're very serious or lighthearted, and then kind of go with the flow. But for the most part, yeah, I just kind of I'm very interactive with the audience. Sometimes I have a kid, like the last concert we did in London. There's a kid just wandering to the stage and so intrigued, and I just started talking to him from stage, and the audience was just laughing because you don't normally do that. And but yeah, I just try and meet people where they're at, and like I told you earlier, it's not a Britney Spears like show with lights.
Well, honestly, I don't know how many people are looking for that these days, but I would say, because I listen to a lot of music in what we do with All About Worship and Songwriters Cafe, and people are looking for real. They're not even looking for perfect pitch.
Mm-hmm.
There is a quote I actually got off your bio. It says, "Less pitch correction and more singing." That's what was quoted about you.
Yeah.
And another quote was that you write life.
Mm-hmm.
So your musical journey is testimonial.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife always, she's got the quote, "You can't have a testimony without a test."
Mm-hmm.
And you have had a lot of things in your life, and probably later high school, right, where you had some physical ailments. How did those physical ailments, where you had some nodules in your throat, and I think you had, I forget the term, it's like lockjaw, right?
TMJD, yeah.
Yeah. I know we don't need to go into the details of that. People can actually go to your YouTube channel and watch the interview if you want to learn more about it. But how did that affect your songwriting? Did that play a part in this album or in your EP?
It's funny because those trials in high school and physical struggles, you think that when you go through it, like, man, this is the hardest part of life. But looking back, like, the trials that I've had to face since then are so much deeper and so much greater. And if I was more bold and maybe had more time, I might go into some of that in a biography one day. But the songs from the last, or my first full-length album, have all come just from my journey within the past few years, and nothing to do with the physical suffering, but just other journeys that God has taken me on, and just the struggle to remain true to myself and to the Lord despite what I've been faced with, despite people's opinions and beliefs and just all the chaos that can be thrown at you, and trying to seek truth the best you can regardless of the consequences. That has been my journey, and that has been kind of what I've been documenting through my music.
Well, I guess, you seem very dedicated in your music. Like, your music is full. I've listened to the songs, and you've got acoustic based things, but then you've got like full orchestral piece, with a lot of stuff going on. How did all that play out? Did you have the style or the feel of the songs in your head when you were going into the studio, or did it happen as part of working with the producers?
I think it's a bit of both. There's sometimes I'm writing and I hear the full production in my head, even just from one acoustic guitar. And there's other times where the song exploded in a completely different direction. I have to say, the Hymn 177 that I did with Ed Cash, I sent him some like Evanescence and some other big sounding music, and I was like, this is what I need. And I showed up in studio, and as I heard it for the first time, there were probably tears in my eyes. I was just like, this is why I sent the song to Ed.
That's right, yeah. Well, and I mean, I'm a producer, and oftentimes I can hear something totally different than what other people are thinking in a song. And sometimes you can lead it on piano and it works, and then other times you're on acoustic and it just sounds really flat and doesn't really work at all.
Yeah.
What would be your choice if you had one instrument to write on? Would it be piano?
Oh gosh. It's hard to write upbeat songs when you're on the piano. And so that's why I always try and use both. But if I had to, I'd probably still use the piano because I'm so much more fluent in that instrument. I can play in any key, and like I have no fear when it comes to the piano. Like I know where I'm going. When it's on guitar, it's like, all right, don't know that chord, so guess can't write that.
Well, I did notice on some of the videos on 100 Huntley Street when you're on that you chose the piano a lot of the time, and you seem very confident on the piano.
Yeah.
Which is actually unusual when artists go on unless, it's like Michael W. Smith, someone who leads from a piano,
Sure.
to get on to national television and sit at a piano and try to sing at the same time with a band backing you up. I mean, how did you feel about having to do that live?
Honestly, when I'm on guitar, I guess there's a lot more fear involved. But when I'm on the piano, I'm in my own world. I could have 3,000 instruments going at the same time, and there's just no fear. Like, my fingers know where to go. And there's just that calm that I feel. Unless I'm playing classical music, then there's a little bit of a scare that I'm not going to get it fast enough. But when it's my own material, my fingers know where they're going, and they just do their thing. I could close my eyes.
Okay. Now, do you get inspiration from anyone specifically? Like, do you have some favorite artists? I know you've been compared to Nicole Nordman, Rachel Lampa. You have a higher soprano type voice than other singers. Do you have any favorites?
I do. I gravitate to the songwriters, and I did mention a couple of those, Bethany Dillon and Brooke Fraser and Sarah Groves, and who else is there? But to be honest, growing up, I actually come from a very traditional upbringing, and so I wasn't allowed to listen to a lot of CCM growing up. So I only knew of choral music, and so a lot of the things that I write actually are so rich in harmony and just that blend of tone. And I think it's because I was raised with that kind of music. But in my teenage years, Bethany Dillon was the first like singer-songwriter that I was like, wow, I didn't know girls could do that. I didn't know girls could be so profound in their writing and have just this, like, she was so God-centered and so focused and just, and I just remember thinking like, it is possible to, go into the Christian music scene and to not allow all of that public attention destroy who you are. Because, growing up in the church I was from, that was the fear.
Right.
That you would be destroyed. And I just remember thinking like, she's a light in this dark tunnel.
Excellent. Now, there's a lot of artists in the U.S. This happens a lot, I know, with certain labels. They deliberately take artists and they throw them into a room, they lock the door, and they say, write. Do you anticipate any kind of co-writing opportunities in the future?
Oh, for sure. And I'm actually scared of those because I've never written with anybody before. I was just trying to scratch my brain to make sure. I mean, nothing that's been public.
Okay.
I might have had jam sessions. And and I actually don't write very good on the spot. I write a song. This is confession time. Amy Savin confession hour.
That's what
I
this is all about.
Oh, you're getting all of the dirt on me. I write a song maybe once every like 4 months, but mostly because I'm scared that if I can't record it right away, I'm just gonna get antsy. So I just tend to not write. But the label wanted me to do a Christmas song in a week or so, and they told me to start writing, and I was like, are you crazy? Like, give me 10 months notice. So I had to pull 2 songs out of my head, and I was floored that I did it. Like,
And
it's
they had
so
to be original songs?
they had to be original. They had to be like, they can't just be a song. It has to be a good song, one that radio's gonna love, one that they love.
And
And
did it have to be festive?
uh,
Was there criteria on happy or serious?
they actually made me do a very serious song and then a fun, light song.
Okay.
And I did both. I don't know. I honestly, to this day, don't know how. I just wrote them last week, and I'm still floored. I'm like, I don't do this. This is not characteristic of me, but
So
praise
you
the
are
Lord.
being stretched as an artist then.
I'm totally. I was actually bitter too. I'm like, do you guys even know how hard this is to do?
Isn't it funny how part of the songwriting journey is learning about yourself, and you'll probably be totally different in 5 or 10 years, and you'll wonder, how in the world did I leave songwriting for 4 months at a time?
I know.
Right? Now, how do we get in touch with you? What are your social media outlets?
Anything that's possible these days, for the most part. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Are you on Google Plus at all?
Negative.
Okay.
I guess I'm not on everything. Dang it.
I always try to throw that one in because people go, huh? I have Gmail, but what's that plus?
I know. Every now and then I get a Google Plus request. I'm like, what is this? I don't have time for this.
Yeah, there you go. Well, and that can be a problem when you're an artist, right? Because it's great to have social media when you're traveling because if you're bored. But if you're with people or your future husband, there are better things in life, other than the odd Instagram, right? I mean, that's more of a, grabbing your journey as you go.
Yeah.
But your fans are going to want to see it all. I mean, that's, as you're making your way into the U.S. now, do you have any idea what it's going to be like in the next 12 months for Amy Savin as an artist? And does that make you fearful?
Good question. Dan, I love your questions. Just throwing that out there to
Thank
you.
you.
You're very creative and easy to talk to. I was just stalling.
Oh, there you go.
I'm not afraid. I think I'm excited more than anything, just because it's new. I'm one of those people that, like when I was a kid and I would write a card to somebody and I would mess up the letter. A lot of people would get a new paper or try and erase it, and I would just turn it into something else, make a flower out of it, or if I scribbled something and it wasn't quite what I wanted, make a picture out of it. And that's the way I am with life. Like, if you give me the situation, I'm not going to moan about it. I'm going to think, okay, this is what I have to work with. We can do this. And so my next chapter, and I'm be moving to Michigan, and I have no clue what lies ahead of me. I know that Peter and I are ready to go on tour if we need to. Right away, we're looking at maybe a spring or summer tour in the U.S. with another artist, and then after that, I'm hoping to continue to tour. I can't leave the U.S. for about 6 months, and then so stay there for a little while. Yeah. And I want to start cutting a new record soon in 2013. So
excellent. You're actually answering all of my next questions. That's perfect. I was going to say, what kind of time frame for the next project? So there you go.
If anybody wants to send me free money for that, you just let me know.
Well, and there's another question for artists, because the music business is brutally poor for the most part. I understand the iTunes thing. This 74 cents on the dollar. Like most of what you make goes into just paying for what you had to pay for in the first place.
Yeah.
Like how do you plan to try to make this all happen? Like, I know Peter's a graphic artist and video. And is that going to be part of who you guys are as a couple? Is that going to continue on, or is it going to be more focused on your music?
I think we're going to have to give and take like there might be times where he has to work with other artists and bands, you know, to create income, and maybe some of that gets poured into my own album, and maybe some of my album sales support his video projects, like, you know, just like a mix of things. And as far as funding for future projects, there's nothing set in stone. You know, you don't know where that money comes in. All that we do know is when God places a seed in your heart, it'll start to grow, and he provides in the right time. And I had no clue how certain things in the past were going to be, the needs were going to be met, but they were. And
Right. As you go into your next album, do you have a goal in mind for where you want to go with that? Are you going to be the same Amy Savin sound, or are you going to be more rocky, folky, classical, choral?
yeah, I'm going full classical now. A little bit of jazz.
There you go.
I honestly, I have no clue. The songs that I've been writing seem to be very big. And by big, I mean there's just a lot of build to it. And then there's a couple songs I've written that are just very bare and acoustic and cozy. And my first album was bipolar, and I trust that the rest of my records will be that way. But I don't know, maybe I'll find a little bit more direction. I feel like I just write whatever I'm feeling, and sometimes that's not very cohesive.
Well, I don't think the whole reason we have this podcast is because there's no one way to do things.
That's right.
And it's about sharing other people's experiences so somebody can go, wow, I never thought of doing that. So you've definitely shed some light on the way you do things. Because I think most people are right now saying, oh, I'm so relieved it takes her 4 months to do a song. You know, because I would say we're like one song every 2 years in our household.
That's good.
Yeah. But anyways, I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And for anyone who wants to find out more about Amy Savin, it's amysavin.com.
That's right.
And you're on Facebook. You have a Facebook page, and you're on Twitter as well, Instagram. What's the social media outlet that you tend to go to? What's the main one you use?
Probably Facebook.
Okay.
It's the most popular.
Okay.
So I'm a follower. Like, I follow the crowds and the trends.
Well, it tends to be where millions and millions of other people are, so it's not a bad place to be.
Here you go. Even Dan's on there, so
There you go.
Don't call me out on it.
And I'm on Google Plus where no one else is. There you go.
Loser.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the interview, and we will look forward to a Christmas song.
That's right.
And an album coming up, and we'll have to keep track of your progress. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.